You all join palms. And repeat after me. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. Keeping the palms joined. Put the palms down. All right, good evening, everybody. Nice to see you all here. Thanks for showing up. It's interesting, I tend to pull whatever I end up saying here from something that occurred in like the last 30 minutes. That tells you how much time I spend preparing for all of this stuff. And just saw a kid who, we started maybe 2009, I think it was. We started our kids, called Dharma Bum Kids Group. And so that was, 14 years ago. So I just saw the kid and the dad now, about 30 minutes ago. He's 20. So he was 6 in our little kids group. In fact, I just sent him a picture of him as like raising his hand, asking a question, and I was a 20-year-old kid at UCSD. It was just one of those kind of moments for me that was just a reminder that this practice, this journey, this learning about meditation, Buddhist teachings, your spiritual path, whatever you call it, it's always there. And I don't think that, and if there's anyone in the room that kind of thinks this right now, but I don't think that one day we wake up and we're just like, cool, I'm good. I got this life stuff figured out. We just keep going. And it doesn't matter if you're 6, if you're 14, if you're 40, if you're 90. There's always challenges at every stage. And that's never going to go away. And I think one of the most powerful, beautiful things I've learned through Buddhist teachings, and ironically, it's the very first thing he said, life is dukkha. It's filled with suffering. But for some reason, we tend to focus on okay, well, let's get rid of that suffering. I mean, I get it. We don't want to suffer. I'm not suggesting that we spend our lives suffering. But the first thing he said is, you're going to suffer a lot in your life. And I think we don't necessarily embrace that as much as we should. Meaning okay, I'm suffering. I'm struggling. I'm being challenged. What does that mean? It means we're alive. It means we have emotions. It means we have a heart. It means we care. It means we're aware that we're suffering. These are all beautiful things to sit with. Suffering doesn't mean your life is ending. Right? Anyone ever felt like whatever challenge they're going through, this is it. My life is over. I'm never going to get through this. And sure enough, you did. Because here you are. Right? And once we get through that one challenge, that difficult moment that we think is just never going to go away, what's waiting for us after that? Another one. So it's like we've just signed up. The moment we're born, we've just signed up for the game of life, which is going to include a tremendous amount of suffering. That's okay. But it's actually that resistance to the suffering. It's this idea that I want no suffering in my life that causes in and of itself so much suffering. as opposed to just seeing, and as we often say in Buddhist teaching, being with it. Be with the suffering. Be with the pain. Be with the sadness. Be with the loneliness. Be with the depression. Be with the anger. Be with the anxiety. Just learn to be with it. And when you can learn to sit with it, what do we typically do when we're feeling emotional, mental pain? I don't want details. Right? Please keep those to yourself. But what do we tend to do when we're sitting with a lot of emotional pain? Avoid it. Escape it. Right? Escape from it. We have this kind of aversion, as the Buddha said, towards pain. And yet we constantly seek pleasure. But this practice isn't running from the emotional pain. It's looking at it and sitting with it, being with it, understanding it. Why is it there? What's going on? What opportunity do I have now that I've been presented with where I can actually learn what's important in my life, what matters in my life? So these moments of emotional pain, I have no idea how I got here from the story of a 6-year-old kid, but here we are, right? These moments of emotional pain are wonderful opportunities to get to know yourself. And then once we get to completely know ourselves, we get to realize that that's all an illusion, and we should just drop it all and just enjoy life, be happy, and don't cause harm. Sounds so simple, right? But it's difficult. So we come together to sit and practice, and with that, we'll start with a meditation. For those who are joining virtually, our millions of followers around the globe, thanks for showing up. Glad you're here. A couple things to tell you before we begin. Nothing's going to happen to you. You're not going to float away. You're not going to have any mystical, magical experiences. The mind that races all day long is not going to shut off. Don't judge your practice. Meaning, don't ask yourself, is this working? Is it not working? Are you doing it right? Are you doing it wrong? We're just going to sit. We're going to breathe. You'll hear sounds inside the room, sounds outside. This is life. Life is filled with chaos, and this practice is learning to get quiet and still within all of the chaos. Posture, you do just want to be comfortable. If you are on a cushion, often it helps slide into the front third, pushing the stomach forward, allows the back to straighten. If you're on a bench or chair, however you're seated, relaxing the shoulders as well. Hands on the knees or lap, whatever's comfortable. If you need to move, simply move. Movement doesn't make you a bad meditator, just means your leg hurts. You're not trying to stop your thoughts. You will not think nothing. Your mind will race. I will say things periodically to wake you up or bring you back to present moments. Most important, do not expect anything. We're just going to sit and breathe. Starting with your eyes closed if comfortable, or slightly open. Mouth is open or closed. We'll start with taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And eventually, settle into a natural rhythm of the breath. Noticing the mind as it wanders, jumping from thought to thought. Start with gently guiding the attention, focus to the stomach or chest. Breathing in, feel them rise. Breathing out, they fall. Simply continue this practice, observing sensation of breath, expecting nothing, but to sit and breathe. As the mind wanders, lost in thought, recognize it. Release that thought. And turn attention, focus to the breath. prepares your mind. Lost in thought. Return to breath. Keeping the mind alert. Aware of each sound. Each thought. Each physical sensation. Yet concerned with nothing but sitting, breathing. letting go of expectations, letting go of judgments of the practice, just sitting, breathing. And with the body still, rested, and the speech quiet, aware of all sounds, and the mind learning to settle. Know what it's like to just sit and breathe. Knowing with each breath, there's nothing else to do. Nowhere else to go. And no one else to be. Everything beautiful, exactly as it is. Sitting, breathing. Once again, taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And slowly opening the eyes. Slowly beginning to move. The most important, the practice of meditation, is to recognize how you feel now, immediately after. Compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference, if there is one. Ask yourselves how you prefer to feel every day for the rest of your life. And realize whatever you feel now, if it's quiet, calm and still, or a busy mind, racing mind, whatever you're sitting with at this moment, has nothing to do with anything I said. It's nothing to do with how we sit and hold the hands across the legs. It's nothing to do with the sounds around us, or anything else for that matter. It's everything to do with your own mind, and your own mind's reaction to an external condition. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samuppada, means dependent origination. This is the basis of the Buddha's awakening. The word Buddha simply means awakening. He was a human being, no different than any one of us, who began to understand why he suffered, why he got angry, sad, depressed, stressed, anxious. He began to understand the causal relationship of all phenomena. And what that means, very simply, for all of us, regardless of where you come from or what you believe in or where you think you're going, your whole life is filled with things that happen. You react. More stuff happens. More reactions. That's it. That's what we get. This practice is simply learning what it's like to respond to something quietly, peacefully, still. Because for most of us, the way you responded to the last 20 minutes is quite different from how you respond to every other 20-minute period of your day. And so all we're working on every day as a practice is closing the gap to where the way you feel now is closer to how you feel always. Just as driven, motivated, productive, successful, whatever that means to you in your respective lives. But with a mind that's steady, clear, focused, distracted by nothing, disturbed by no one. Imagine going a day without being disturbed by someone. Imagine going an hour without being disturbed by someone. This practice is not easy. It's not necessarily fun. And it's not the escape, as often people think it is. If your life is a crazy, hectic, stressed out mess, meditation doesn't fix that. It helps you become aware of your life that is a crazy, hectic, stressed out mess. So you can begin to slowly make some subtle changes to take care of yourself. Meditation is free. Buddhist practice is free. Sitting, breathing, learning to be kind to yourself and everybody else you encounter every moment of your life. And that's why this stuff is so easy, because, as I said earlier, we just have to roam around and be nice to people. And look at this incredible group of people. I know how nice you all can be, right? You smile, it's okay. Once we stop trying to change, fix, control, manipulate everything around us, which is where we spend so much of our time hoping they do this, hoping they do that, wishing they would do this, wishing they would do that. So much time focused on everybody else. And this is an opportunity to change your mind and your reaction to the world around you. Because things are a mess. We get it. But you don't have to be a mess. That's the practice. And very often we look at the mess of the world, and whatever that means to you, it could be, on a large global scale, it could be who you work with, who you go to school with, who you live with, who you're stuck in traffic with, who you're in line to get your coffee with. I don't mean like with, I mean the people in front of you who are taking too long, right? How do we respond to all of these people? What are these situations like for us? And how are we in all of these situations? Can we just be present with life as it occurs and not allow every little thing to trigger us and make our emotions this crazy riding roller coaster? This is learning to be steady. Not closing our eyes to everything that's going on in the world, not avoiding it, not ignoring it, but engaging in it, engaging with it. working to make change in the world we live in. But starting with ourselves and becoming aware of how we can be a kinder, gentler, happier person. Because that gets overlooked too often. Very often, depending upon where we are, what stages of our lives, but very often we get lost trying to accomplish, trying to gain, trying to achieve, trying to win. And we forget to slow down and just take care of ourselves, because that's the most important thing to start. Take care of yourself. And then go from there. So that's really where this practice begins. And that's why the meditation aspect of it is so critical. Because when you're sitting, it's just you and all your thoughts. And how fun is that? If it's anything like me and my thoughts, it's an absolute nightmare. It's a mess up here. I've been at this stuff 20-some years. It's still a mess, and it's not getting better anytime soon. I've completely abandoned the idea that my mind is going to, drastically change just because I sit quietly. But you learn to just watch it and see it and realize that all those thoughts, they're just passing through. They're never going to stop. They're always going to be there. Just watch them. Like watching a movie. So sometimes it's a pretty scary movie, but you just sit with it until the sun comes out. There you go. So with that, I'll pause. For me, really just prefer to respond to questions. Meditation, Buddhist practice, anything that you're sitting with, and we'll use the rest of our brief time this evening for that. And again, to those joining virtually, welcome. Feel free to, as you are, chime in, say hello. Any thoughts or questions you can put in the chat box there, and I'll do my best to respond. So we'll open up to questions, thoughts, go from there. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on how to manage expectations?
Is that it?
Of everything in your life?
Oh, thank you for clarifying that. So the first part of the question was, just to clarify for those who didn't hear those virtual, the first part of the question was, what are your thoughts on managing expectations? And I said, is that it? And then he followed up with, on everything in your life. So thank you for adding that second part, because that changed everything drastically. So my master, Venerable Isher, she always taught me to practice and learn to expect nothing from anyone, ever. No expectations from anything or anyone, ever. And it's been one of the most beautiful practices of my life. I mean, that teaching alone. Could you just imagine for 1 minute? Obviously you can, because you asked the question, right? But what would it be like? So I'll ask you, what would it be like to have no expectations? And then, let me put, go ahead.
No, I'm saying it'd be liberating.
Liberating, right? Only thing I was going to clarify is, and again, for those who might be brand new to Buddhism, the idea of no expectations, often people confuse that with like no goals or no aspirations. It doesn't mean you just sit there like a log and do nothing. You work hard. I mean, this practice is work. It's hard work. Life is hard work. Diligence, effort, all those things are important. But I took the idea of no expectations, not that, just so many expectations of people. And what do we often have our greatest expectations? Where? Ourselves. How is it that we can do absolutely nothing one day and feel that we've completely failed at everything? Right? How hard are you on yourself? Extremely hard, right? I know that. I remember 5 years old coming back from a baseball game. I could have had gone 5 for 5, I never hit 5 home runs, but in this example, hit 5 home runs, whatever it was going to be. We could have lost 6-5, and I would have felt it was all my fault. And I would sit in my uniform all day long, and I would slam my door, and I would cry. From a super young age, I just remember being like so driven. And these expectations of myself were so high. And that ruined tremendous anger, depression, because constantly feeling like a failure, no matter how good you are. You look in the mirror and you're just like, I'm a failure. Setting that down was the first step. It's a harder step. It's actually easier to have less expectations of other places or people or things. It's harder to drop these expectations of ourselves. Because, how old are you? 50. Wow, you look young. Yeah, so 51, right? So let's just say the age of 5. That's 46 years. You've been carrying around expectations of yourself. Suzuki Roshi, the great Japanese Zen master priest, would say, you're all perfect exactly how you are. And you all could use a little improvement. Right? So don't be afraid once in a while to kind of pat yourself on the back and say, hey, I'm doing all right. And have some love and kindness and compassion for yourself for made it to 51. That's a good run so far, right? Be proud of that. And try to go a little easier on yourself. You're just human. Then from there, you begin to recognize that people will let you down. They will disappoint you. They will lie to you. The world will crumble around you. The Buddha taught the teaching of impermanence. All conditioned phenomena comes together for a period of time and then ceases to exist. So everything we are holding on to in our lives right now, physically, mentally, emotionally, whatever it is, and these are things, maybe they're good things to you, maybe they're bad things to you, it doesn't matter. However you label them, whatever box you put around them, everything in your life right now, person, place, and thing, from the people in the lives, to the clothes in your lives, to everything, will be gone at some point in time. It all will. Yet on all of these people, places, and things, we're carrying these grand expectations. We want this to be the same forever. We want them to always be this way. There's so many stories. Everybody has their own mess. So for all of your mess for 51 years, every single person you encounter in their whole lives, they've got their own mess also. And then these messes of people come together and we can't understand why we don't get along. Because we just put too much pressure on people, ourselves and everybody else. Too many expectations. Just appreciate people for being alive and going through the journey. And it doesn't mean if people treat you poorly that you're just like, yeah, I got no expectations, keep treating me like crap, I'm cool with it. No, you can leave. You're not stuck. Usually. But these expectations we put on people really do, they harm us, but they also, it's a lot for them. It's a lot for them to carry, to throw these heavy expectations on people, how we want the world to treat us. So, no expectations from anything or anyone ever. And don't expect to accomplish that anytime soon.
So in a similar vein, we're working kind of to recognize and maybe become independent from attachments and aversions. But a lot of times you hear that a near enemy or a near, I can't remember the term, kind of an opponent of this is like indifference. So we're working for this independence, but that doesn't mean indifference.
Correct.
And so this is certainly true, this expectation thing, and it's something I've struggled with. I'm wondering if you could maybe develop a little bit in that direction, how to not be indifferent.
Yeah, definitely. So to sum up, what I hear kind of the heart of your question, which you just said at the end is this cutting through expectations, how is that different from to be indifferent? And so a lot of times this comes up around the practice of emptiness and people thinking they read they read one page on emptiness and they could get this idea that like nothing's real, nothing matters. Everything matters. Everything is important. When I hear the word indifferent, which of course semantics means different things to different people, but when I hear indifferent, it almost to me sounds like you don't care. Like that if someone says they're indifferent about something, it's almost as if they don't really care about it. And beyond expectations isn't not caring about it. Because the practice is to deeply and intimately care about everything and everyone. But also early on in your question, you mentioned the word, non-attachment. But ultimate, like true deep love is to love without attachment, without attempting to control, without attempting to bring your expectations into it, but to just meet and be with people and ourselves where we and they are. So I won't have any expectations from you, right? Sam, right?
Mm-hmm.
I won't have any expectations from you, but I'm not going to be indifferent towards you. I'm not going to not care about you just because I don't have expectations of you. You can be and treat me however you want. I'm okay with that. And I will choose how to respond. But I'm not going to expect you to be anyway. Right? Which is also a really funny thing, these expectations. Does that make sense so far? It's a funny thing about these expectations because I've known you now all of like 3 interactions for a total of like 6 minutes, okay? So I don't know anything about you. Yet, how quickly do we form expectations of other people? So quick. We're so quick to like have these expectations of how we want people to be or how we expect them to be. Because we formulated some opinion in our head about them. And again, that all starts with just our judgment of others. So definitely not indifferent. Endless love, endless compassion, endless care, but without trying to control, expect anything from them. And it doesn't mean stay in crappy relationships if they're crappy. Does that make sense? It's not like, well, I'm Buddhist, you can treat me like shit. No, that's not the teaching. I just want to clarify that for anyone who might be brand new. So, unhealthy, toxic, get out. Yeah, does that help? And it's a practice. It's one thing to intellectually understand it, and then another to like, okay, what does this actually look like? That's only comes from practice. Yeah.
What's like the number one quality you see in long-lasting, successful relationships?
What's the number one quality I see in long-lasting, successful relationships? I think it's hard to, of course, not say honesty as the first one, but I think it's even deeper than that. I think it's an individual's ability, an individual. So you're asking about couples, and I'm going to focus on the individual. I believe it's an individual's ability to be comfortable fully with who they are and honest with themselves about who they are. And when you show up in a relationship, to bring that to the relationship. Again, it's really easy to say, well, people are just honest with each other. But, I mean, trust me, I've had enough relationships that just did not work. And so, even if there was honesty, but was the honesty really honest? Or was it just truthful to kind of fit some story or picture? Was I really being genuine and honest with myself and what I was bringing to a relationship? And I think we owe that to people. That person you meet and go out with once or twice the first 2 times, is that really you? I mean, you're gonna go out with somebody the first time and be like, yo, let me just tell you all the bad stuff about me. You know? No, you wait like 3 years. And then you're already 3 years in and you're like, I can't tell them now, because then they're gonna think I'm hiding this from them. And then 20 years go by and you're like, hey, there's something I should have told you 20 years ago when we met. So, you know, I think just being very genuine and honest with ourselves is the start of having healthy relationships. And that really ties into a comfort level of how comfortable you are with yourself. And then you can kind of, you know, intimately share that with other people. Yeah. Thanks. What else? Yeah.
One thing that I've been recently trying to wrap my head around is like that kind of ties in with everything is like, how do you develop deep friendships if you don't expect from people?
Yeah.
And, you know, like test the boundaries of a friendship, and like I can care as, you know, as deeply as I can. But my caring doesn't necessarily feel deep if there's not like my mind says reciprocity, but that's not it, because it's not a transactional thing.
My mind said that also, but I was letting you talk and not just you're sharing that our
But
minds.
it's not like it's not transactional.
Correct.
But in a large regard, like I guess certain people I care for, and I will continue to care for no matter what. It seems like over time, with distance and everything, you know, like I don't want to tie expectation of the relationship and you know, ask for a call back, sure, or something. But it seems over time, because of the actions that are there, I am forcing myself out to reach out more because I know I don't want to pull back. But it's almost like, okay, maybe this has run its course.
Yeah.
You know, like, and it's one of those things where it kind of feels like indifference, right? But then I'm like, well, if I care, my caring might not lead to a compassionate outcome if it's the wrong type of caring. And it kind of gets me in this circle where I'm like trying to figure out a best action that shows compassion to the other people, to me, and not expect something of them in the same regards.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think, you know, it's a tricky one because obviously every situation, every dynamic, every friendship, every person you would, even in that asking of that question that might go through your head, each situation is different. Of course. But let me ask you this. Do you have, you know, really for everybody in the room, just think about, are there people in your life that you deeply love and care about? Maybe never seen them or never talked to them? Absolutely. Right? And we all kind of have those people. Yeah. So that right there goes to show you that, like you said, it's not a transactional thing. Like you truly care about them, you truly love them. Maybe you don't talk with them or have any interaction with them. But so that is possible. But what I'm hearing in your question is really more, I mean, you said it, like the deeper friendships. And in many ways, I feel like almost you asked and answered your question, at least the way I would respond to something like this, which is, yes, things do run their course. And we have relationships with people, whether, you know, friendships, intimate relationships, whatever it might be, that are there for a period of time. Some are longer, some are shorter. And they all come to an end at some point. Even if we're, you know, married to somebody for 70 years, we pass away. So I think if, from a friendship standpoint, I don't know how healthy it is to really try to like struggle. You know, if it's not there, and it doesn't mean that you're expecting it, but if you're not feeling that connection with somebody, that friendship with somebody, if that friendship has changed, you know, and not necessarily because of anything happened, maybe just time and space and distance, whatever, then maybe it's okay to say, yeah, this is in a different place right now. It's a different space. sometimes kind of holding on to relationships too long can also be a little bit detrimental, because if there is a history, then there's heavy expectations that you've already built into it, right? And I could be wrong, but I'm almost hearing from your question that you're kind of referring more to like, how do I keep deep friendships with people that I've had deep friendships with,
Yeah.
versus cultivating new ones,
Yeah.
just in the nature of your question.
That, yeah.
Okay.
And then there's an expectation of that I need to keep it, right? Like, but.
So my suggestion is, and just completely making stuff up as I always do, maybe if you're constantly putting all this energy, time, and effort into trying to keep these deep relationships that have been meaningful to you, what does that mean you're not able to do?
Yeah, the opportunity comes.
The opportunity to create new deep and meaningful relationships.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's time to just keep moving. I mean, I have so many people in my life that I care and love deeply about and probably haven't talked to in 20 years. And that's okay. It doesn't mean if I didn't see them this moment that, you wouldn't be incredibly thrilled to see them and hug them and tell stories from 20 years ago. And then it could cease to exist and another 20 years could pass and that would be okay. But we tend to hold on to stuff a lot. Yeah. So there's a question here that says, Zen is often referred to as a method of no method. If there is no, and I love this too, because then it says if there is no MET, and then the question cut off. So if you're crazy Zen people, I think that's great. But then it follows with, Zen is often referred to as a method of no method. If there is no method, is there a way to attain it? No method, nothing to attain. Next question. Yeah.
Something that just popped into my head is the concept of self-worth.
Ah.
And I think a lot of that comes from attachment and expectation. How do you think about self-worth and confidence? And is there a place for like the concept of self-worth?
In Buddhism,
Yeah.
especially since you know that Buddhism teaches no self.
Yeah.
So the question is, does the teachings of non-self allow for a place of self-worth? Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, you're in luck, Katie. The great Zen master Dogen, who lived from 1200 to 1253, he would say, first you must before you get rid of the self, you must get to know the self. So my suggestion is, in getting to know this self that you're so eagerly working to get rid of as such a great Buddhist practitioner that you are, while you're getting to know this self, have a sense of self-worth. You mentioned the word confidence or self-confidence in there as well. And they're definitely tied together. And very often going back to the expectations, we've got these grand expectations of ourselves. We've failed at most of them our entire lives. We failed to actually give ourselves credit for anything you've done in your life. Hello, can you stop for a moment and say, I've done a few good things? Can you just take 5 minutes every day and congratulate yourself for something good that you did? And not spend 95% of your day hating yourself for all the stuff you've done wrong. I'm just asking, 5 minutes. Just like yourself for 5 minutes, okay? In this process of having a sense of appreciation for all the joy, all the pain, all the struggles, all the beauty in your life, with this, some confidence can be built, because if we begin to lower these expectations that we have of ourselves, maybe our confidence would increase. If we didn't feel like we're failing our whole lives, maybe our confidence would increase. So I don't want to get too wrapped up on, I love Thich Nhat Hanh's teachings around this, where he talks a lot about, the way that we try to kind of define ourselves, especially through therapy, which I always say half the people here are in therapy, the other half are therapists, right? But the way we try to define ourselves with self-worth and these types of things, instead of trying to fit the definition of how's my self-worth and how's my confidence, look at his teachings really around, look at your actions. And that's the engaged Buddhist practice. How are you showing up each day? Right? Where are you showing up each day? What actions are you bringing into the world? How much love, how much kindness, how much compassion are we bringing into the people and places and things around us? And if we start to look at those things, instead of ourselves trying to fit into the box of how we think we're supposed to be, just show up and practice kindness in any way, in simple ways, right? You just go to the grocery store and practice kindness by putting the little carrying shopping cart in the little stack of other carrying shopping carts, taking the shopping cart that nobody pushed back and actually just returning it. There's so many little simple ways. You don't have to fly all the way around the world and whatever to practice kindness, You'll have opportunities in the next 20 minutes to practice kindness. So if we focus more on the actions and less on the focus of self-worth and confidence, I believe then our view of self-worth and confidence would improve. That makes sense. So to me, the practice, and again, this is karma, action. That's the practice. What do we bring it into the world? Yeah, we'll do one more and then we'll close.
I'm trying to tie concepts together here with the unattachment, but not indifference. And then karma is what was coming to mind for me.
Yes.
Then doing things that are good without caring about the outcomes.
Okay.
The only thing that's left to do, if you're not attached, but you're not indifferent, kind of feels like, is that what karma, why it's in the teaching, doing things because they're good, and for basically no other reason.
Well, in the last 60 seconds, let me just sum up karma, non-attachment, and everything you just asked. That's a lot, right? And in trying to make sense of it, I think it's, for me as a practitioner, similar to what I just said, it's less important. Well, let me start with, it's less important about any definitions and dropping those kind of labels and boxes and just showing up in the world. It's less about trying to understand why all that is the case, right? You've helped a lot of people in your life, right? What? Have you helped a lot of people in your life?
Yeah.
Did you always think about all the reasons why you helped them? No, you just helped them. So this is kind of the same thing. In this practice, sometimes we can almost read and study Buddhist stuff so much that we could read 72 pages on non-attachment. And then we're I almost got it, let me go get another book on non-attachment, right? Instead of just going out and practicing kindness. And I think also it's important to, there was another part of what you said that I wanted to touch on. I think it's important that we, with non-attachment, so what's called the Bodhisattva, I'm trying to sum this up in my head and then sum it up to you all, but the Bodhisattva practice and the teachings of giving, of generosity, is to give time, attention, heart, smile, hugs, all these things. without any recognition of a gift, a giver, or a receiver. This goes back to kind of the first thing you said about that, is in the practice of giving, of caring for people, of helping others, we are not attached to the outcomes, right? You ever done something good for somebody and then they don't do anything back and you're like, well, hey, what about me, right? The practice is just to give without any expectation of anything in return. And when you get nothing in return, you know what you do? You give more. So it's a hard one to answer because the practice is really to drop away all of that. No expectations, not wanting to even anything in return. And in that practice, you feel incredible joy. And in that practice, you continue to feel more joy as you continue to give. So no gift, no giver, no receiver. Just endless compassion. All of this so easily intellectually understood and, as you know, so difficult to bring into the world. But that's why we practice. So anything else before we close? And I send you all out there to go be incredibly kind to everyone else you encounter. Yeah.
I was gonna ask, how do you manage other people's expectations for you?
That's a great one. How do I manage other people's expectations of me? Dude, that's their mess. Yeah. Like, how I manage it is I don't care about it. Truly. 100%. What other people think of me has nothing to do with me. So it doesn't even become anything to manage. To me, when you manage something, it's almost like, okay, I've got this now. I have to manage it and take care of it. That's because I picked it up, right? What other people think of me, I'm not even going to pick that up. Some love me, some hate me. Some think I'm a good guy, some think I'm an asshole. That's up to them. But all I can focus on is what do I bring into the world. And it's a beautiful question, and what it really ties to for me, and I'll close with this thought, is that there is a depth that we carry of our concern, true concern, and so many of us are like buried literally in the stress and pressure of other people's expectations of us. And to drop all of that is incredibly liberating. Imagine if you just stopped caring about what other people thought of you. You know, family, friends, parents, everybody pushing you, everyone trying to get you to be a certain way, think a certain way, look a certain way, act a certain way. Billions of dollars spent telling you what you should wear and what you should eat, where you should go. You know how annoying that is? You do, right? So to just say, hey, you're a mess, not mine. You don't have to manage it at all. Yeah, hope that's helpful. Yeah. All right, so we'll join palms as we close. May the benefit of this practice be shared with all beings in all directions. May all beings be at peace. May all be free from suffering. May any merit gained from this practice be transferred to Kristen and her family during their time of suffering. May they all be at peace and free from suffering. May we all be at peace and free from suffering. All right, before you all head out, our Dharma Bum host Eddie just has a few announcements. Thanks, Eddie.
Hello, everyone. I am tonight's host, Eddie. We opened the Dharma Bum Temple 17 years ago to introduce Buddhist practice to those who show up. Those who lead are not nuns, monks, gurus, masters, or teachers, and are not looking for students. They're simply practitioners sharing their interpretation of the practice. Every night we have different classes led by different people from various Buddhist traditions. We have have a recovery sangha that meets several times a week for anyone battling addiction. And our food redistribution program is every Thursday at 5 p.m. We have classes and programs every day, and everything we offer here is always free. The full schedule is on our website and also posted in the entryway above the shoe rack. We also have a lending library. If you see a book you like, feel free to borrow it and then bring it back whenever you are done with it. Please straighten your seat or cushion before you head out. If a few people could stay to close and latch the windows, that would be helpful. Thank you for being here. We wish you well and hope to see you all again.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ed.
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you all.